Police Department review.
Good evening, Chief.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman.
David, can you just pull that mic down a little bit? I'm not sure that's one of our new mics. I just want to make sure it works.
I've been watching the television. It works. I've been watching the television in this room here, and I just want to ask the cameraman, don't zoom in on me like you just did the finance director, because if you do, the glare is going to cause a whiteout on the camera. Okay? Just heads up. Pass these out. I greatly appreciate it. I could just wait a second. Please get around the room.
But that's not here. Pile on my stuff. But Dale's not here. Pile on my stuff.
There's plenty of room over here.
But pretty much everyone has one. We're getting there. I'm going to ask the council, bear with me. I'm going to do my report in two parts. And the first part is pretty much I'm going to be giving you my annual report that you'll be reading in the upcoming edition of the annual report, and highlighting some areas on that. So to the folks that are in the room this evening also, please bear with me. I'm going to be doing a lot of reading from this and going from there. Again, you'll have the opportunity to read this document when the annual report comes out. That's good. Getting off to a good start, aren't I? Here we go. Okay. This is the Police Department Annual Report for 2008. For 2008, the Police Department will again exceed 10,000 calls for service dispatched through our comm center. This is the 5th consecutive year that the department has surpassed the 10,000 calls for service number. On your handout, I think it's the last page. Calls for service. You see our history for calls for service in the town of Lisbon. Your police department is a very proactive department and addresses law enforcement issues 24/7, 365. This year's annual report you will see is similar to last year's, for those of you who had the opportunity to see last year's report. I have repeated and updated much of the 2007 report format because of the intentional misleading information that has been circulated this past year by some citizens regarding staffing levels of your police department. And with the stats that you have in front of you, I want to read an excerpt from the August 15th, 2008 Lisbon Reporter. Don't be dazzled by Brooks's calls for service graph, many of which are probably wrong numbers, because they mean nothing. And don't be fooled by the numbers that he creates himself. Great publication. So, to the Lisbon Reporter, this is for you. The police department full-time police officer level was reduced in the latter half of 2008 from 16 full-time officers to our current 15 full-time officers. The town had maintained the 16 officer level since 2001. However, town budget issues caused the town council to cut funding to support the 16th position. In 2007, the police department ratio, population ratio with officers was 1.69, which is on the second page. The state of Maine ratio is 1.89. Let me address this handout. This handout, all of the information on this handout is from a publication that is called Crime in Maine, 2007, published by the Maine Department of Public Safety. On the first page, it tells you that in this report, 113 police departments, municipal police departments, reported. So that tells me there's 113 municipal police departments in Maine. And also, according to this study, Lisbon is the 23rd largest municipality in Maine. A lot of people don't remember that. We're not the little tiny backwoods town that some people try to make us out to be. We are the 23rd largest community in the state of Maine. Again, your municipal police officer population ratio statewide in 2007 was 1.89 officers per 1,000 population. Lisbon's during that same time period was 1.69 officers. At 1.69, Lisbon ranked 53rd in the state for police officer population ratio. I know some of you are like, what's he telling me this stuff for? But I just need you to bear with me and try to understand. 113 municipal law enforcement agencies. We're the 23rd largest municipality in the state of Maine, yet we rank 53rd in the state of Maine for police officer population ratio. In 2008, that dropped. When we lost that officer in last year's fiscal budget, that dropped down to 1.58, which then ranks us, using the 2007 numbers, at 61st in the state of Maine. 61st out of 113 departments. I want to show on the next page, you're going to see crime rates and clearance rates. Again, all of this information is coming right out of the 2007 Crime in Maine publication produced by the Maine Department of Public Safety. I'd like you to note that the crime rate in Lisbon from 98, actually before 98, but from 98 through 97 has been at a pretty fair number. If you look at the graph, and I understand it's probably hard to see some of that, but the darkest shade in these graphs are the state of Maine numbers. The next shade, which says Androscoggin, that's your Androscoggin County numbers, which is the middle one. And the color to the right is supposed to be lighter, but it's not on mine. The color to the right is your town of Lisbon crime rate statistics over the 10-year period. And on the bottom, the clearance rate is in the same order. Your first bar for the 10-year history is your clearance rate for the state of Maine. Your middle bar is your clearance rate for Androscoggin County, and the right bar is your clearance rate in the town of Lisbon. Going back to the officer piece, New England ratio for officers in a municipality is 2.2, and the national ratio is 2.4. We are currently at 1.5 plus. One thing the publication points out is that caution should be exercised in using rates for comparative purposes, since a wide variety of factors dictate the number of employees necessary to various law enforcement agencies. This is true. Each municipality has its own circumstances. Again, Lisbon is the 23rd largest community in our state. Lisbon is in the center of one of the busiest roadways in the state, Route 196, with the city of Lewiston and all of western Maine to our west, and the Brunswick Topsom and Mid-Coast region to our east. And with the addition of the turnpike access in Sabattis, Route 9 is experiencing much higher volume of traffic as well. This is not a statement highlighting our potential for a strong economic position on the map. That is the task of another department. It is a statement indicating the degree and potential of crime and traffic-related issues that have to be addressed. not only a product of local residents, but the transient population as well. You'll be reading, you'll have the opportunity to read all of this as time goes on. But going back to the printout, the next page I'd like to bring to your attention is just the 2007 bar graph. And 2000, you're asking why is he saying 2007? 2007 is because those are the most recent stats that are available today through the Department of Public Safety. The 2008 stats will not be available till mid-year. But if you look at Lisbon's crime rate for 2007, our crime rate was 17.63 crimes per 1,000 population. Androscoggin County was at 26.14, and the state of Maine was at 25.66. At that 17.63, we ranked 46th in the state. That's a nice crime rate, 17.63. We're proud of that. We work hard to try to keep it at that. But again, with a lot of the misinformation that has been intentionally broadcast in the past year from factions within town, they claim we have no crime. Well, sorry to tell you folks, we do have crime. And our rate is at 46 in the state of Maine out of the 113. On the next graph, the clearance rate, and this is another thing that I'm proud of because it's because of the work of the officers on the department to clear the crimes that take place in your community. Maine's clearance rate for 2007 was 29.4, Androscoggin's was 35.9, and Lisbon's was 47.9. And you can see we climbed the ladder on that. At 47.9% clearance rate, we ranked 19th best in the state of Maine out of 113 departments. Now, to me, that's kudos for a job well done for the men and women on the Lisbon Police Department that are trying to keep us in a safe community. Moving on, and like I said, the last page is simply the calls for service graph. We went to a new software system in the middle of 2002. 2003 was the first year for full statistics from that system, and that's why that graph started in 2003. In past years, we continue to pursue grants. In 2008, the department received 6 grants from the Maine Bureau of Highway Safety. 5 of those awards totaling $16,875 for overtime. We're continuing our OUI emphasis, speed, and seatbelt enforcement. The other highway safety award was for the public safety announcement produced in cooperation with the high school SAD chapter, totaling $5,575. Healthy Androscoggin also awarded $1,325 grant to supplement those PSA announcements. Those PSAs aired on the local television stations, and we're proud of that also because we've been notified by Channel 6, the 207 program, that they may be doing a special on those PSAs in the not too distant future. The department continued to receive U.S. Department of Justice weed and seed funding through June 08, totaling $4,800 for our LEAD program. The department kept that program going after that funding ended in June, applied for funding through the State Juvenile Justice Assistance Grant Program, and in late December, the department was notified that it has been awarded a 2-year grant totaling $14,040 to continue with our LEAD program. Healthy Androscoggin awarded a total of $10,848 to the department to continue with its work on underage drinking details, diversion, compliance checks, and equipment training for the officers. From the school department's Title V funds, the police department received $4,000 for SAD, Camp Kiev training, and Healthy Decisions Days. And our DARE football game against the New England Patriots raised $16,500. Thank you very much for that. Raised $16,500 for the Lisbon DARE program. That biannual fundraiser is the only fundraiser for DARE. It's the DARE program running for 2 years. The grants, award notifications, and fundraiser noted in the report totaled $74,000. Now, council will remember a couple of years ago I gave a report just on grants and awards that the department had received. In 2007, we surpassed the $1 million level. The department, over the past 10 years, had received over $1 million, so I can now say we're working on our second million in grants and awards from outside agencies for the town of Lisbon. Also in 2008, the department held its first Citizens Police Academy. 12 residents attended the 10-week instruction. They received instruction in areas of criminal investigation, domestic violence, traffic enforcement, firearms, ammunitions, just to name a few. They got a hands-on insight into law enforcement, its training and requirements of police officers and those of our public safety dispatchers. This year, our Citizens Police Academy starts next week, and last year we had 12. This year we have 22 people coming through the door to attend our Citizens Police Academy. The department initiated a volunteers and police service program in 2008 as well. The department VIPS coordinator is Tom Stanton Sr. Tom, you just raise your hand? You should have stood up. The department, now you made me lose my place. Tom was a reserve officer for over 30 years in Lisbon. He leads a group of volunteers in the Citizens Outreach Program. Of course, Citizens Outreach Program is COP, C-O-P. Is a program where our VIPS volunteers telephone local citizens, mostly our senior population, and check with them, making sure all is okay. When necessary, the volunteer can coordinate or make contact with a service provider that the citizen may need assistance from. The community policing initiatives continue. I want to thank the members of all those groups throughout the year that have helped. You can see from the activities addressed in this report, your police department goes beyond traditional police services and is very active in the community. All of the men and women of the Lisbon Police Department remain dedicated to serving the community and providing the highest quality law enforcement service possible. As always, thank you for your support, past, present, and future. Respectfully submitted, David Brooks. I would, this is the first part. I guess I would entertain any questions, if I may, Mr. Chairman, on maybe on that handout or whatever, if there's something that's not quite understood from anyone.
No questions, several actually. Are all departments required to report to this?
All departments are required to report to the Board of Trustees of the Maine Criminal Justice Academy. Annual reports. As a matter of fact, all of the past chairs have to sign that report before it's submitted, because the highest elected official in our community is responsible for signing it. So yes, all departments have to report.
That's where this information comes from.
Correct.
Just curious, the crime rate. Why are the first few years that are shown there, 98 through like 2000, 2001? Why was the crime rate higher then? Not so much just Lisbon, but statewide. Was there any particular reason? Just curious.
I don't have an answer for that. I don't know why it was higher statewide, but I would like to know that it was in 2001 when the police department went to the 16th position. That was cut last year. And if you note on that chart that prior to 2001, the crime rate in Lisbon was higher. '98, '99, and 2000, your crime rate was higher than state average. And we attribute that to the fact that we got a 16th officer. Maybe we can, maybe we can't, but it's quite a coincidence. That's also the time when we became really heavily involved with the SROs in our schools. We'd already had an SRO in our elementary school, and that's the time when we put an SRO in our high school.
One more question, I'll be done. The next page. Sorry. The next page, the crime rate. What types of crimes do?
These are index crimes. The state of Maine is still only counting index crimes, murder, rape, robbery, burglary, larceny, motor vehicle theft. They haven't gotten into the system yet. That is called NIBRS, National Incident-Based Reporting. They're in the system. We report. Our report goes to them in a NIBRS format, National Incident-Based Reporting format. However, it hasn't gotten to all of the agencies across the entire state yet. So when our report goes to the state, they have to draw out of our report and in order to go back into the old UCR format, Uniform Crime Reporting. So they're still on the old Uniform Crime Reporting system. That probably really confused you.
Not really. Michael?
Yes.
Can I go back to her previous question? And are we seeing our crime rate in Lisbon having increased now that we're down one police officer in 2008?
We don't have the 2008 numbers yet.
I'm asking you personally.
I don't have that answer.
I think it's going to be pretty tough to tell, because I think if you look back even to 98, 99, 2000, a lot of that curve you're seeing is actually kind of recessionary too, because if you look back in 98, 99, 2000, we're kind of similar to what we are today. Look at 2003 through 2006, money was actually flowing pretty good.
Ask that.
Now it's actually, it's going to be pretty hard to tell whether that's a police officer or just the economy that's going to affect the difference. But because I think you're going to find in the next 2 years that scale's going to go back up regardless. You know what I mean?
Well, I think those bars will go up statewide.
Yeah, exactly. The whole scale's going to go up in the next 2 years.
And my concern is if we continue with the mentality of reducing the police department, then you're going to be putting a target on Lisbon, and that graph is going to shoot right up on Lisbon as well, because the resources aren't going to be available out there to fight it.
Any other questions? Questions from the public? Sir?
Someone's here to ask you.
Yes, please.
My name is Charles Baker. I live at 92 Summer Street in Lisbon Falls, and thank you for that report. Cleared up a lot of things for me, but I don't understand what the clearance rate means. It sounded like a good thing where the clearance rate went up. Maybe you could clarify that.
The clearance rate is simply a percentage of crimes committed that have been cleared. If we have 100 crimes committed, we've cleared 40-some-odd% of them. So whatever our total crime factor is, we've cleared 40+% of those crimes. And our clearance rate historically in Lisbon has always been higher than both the state and Androscoggin County. Because again, we've had the resources to devote to solve those crimes. Solve the crime, correct. Solve the crime. Yeah.
Any other questions? Oh, yes, sir. Can you come to the mic, please?
Conrad Davis in Lisbon, on Lisbon Road. And I'd like to thank Chief Brooks for putting this thing together. And I'm trying to go through it real quick, as I'm sure everybody else is. I'm a little confused, to be honest with you. So I'd like to ask this question. Page 2. The fourth bullet, the last bullet, you say at 1.58, Lisbon ranks 61st in the state using 07 officer/population ratio. Referring to 61st, does this mean, and I confuse easy, so to clarify this, does this mean that there actually, of all the agencies reporting, there are 60 agencies with a higher ratio?
Correct.
Of 113, there are 60.
Municipal law enforcement agencies in the state of Maine that have a higher police officer population ratio than the town of Lisbon today.
Okay. Thank you. And the other question I had was one that one of the ladies up there had asked. I didn't know what index crime was. And that would be, so like small calls wouldn't be.
They're not in this crime rate formula, that's correct. The state only uses the murders, rapes, robberies, burglaries, thefts.
And all this information is published information. State.
You can go right online and you can go all the way back to like 1985 or 84. I don't know how far back they go.
All right, thank you.
Any other questions? Oh, he's just scratching his head. I thought he had a question.
Again, Mr. Chairman, I bring this up, as I said earlier, because of the intentional misinformation that's been put out to the citizens for quite a few months now. I'd like to, as part of this, I'd like to read, to show you how this information seems to be disseminated. I'd like to read excerpts from the meeting minutes of the Lisbon Concerned Citizens Group, July 29th, 2008. This is a forum for Lisbon residents. No trashing or bashing allowed. Now remember that. No trashing or bashing allowed. One of our members spoke with Yarmouth's Chief of Police at this last weekend's Clam Festival. He said that the town of Yarmouth has a total of 12 police officers. They have no detectives. The town of Lisbon has 21 police officers and 3 detectives. That's 24. We had 15. This is in a town that has no crime. This is in a town that has no crime. And Yarmouth's police chief said that we, the residents of Lisbon, are being sodomized, and the whole state knows it. That's out of the Lisbon Reporter. I personally addressed Mr. Roger Cody on this. And Mr. Cody advised me that he was the one who had that conversation with the Yarmouth police chief.
I did.
Chief Mike Morrow responded, "David, thank you for forwarding the minutes from a recent meeting of the Lisbon Concerned Citizens. As reported, I was in fact approached during the Clam Festival by a Lisbon resident. We engaged in a very brief conversation, during which time the gentleman attempted to make a comparison between the towns of Yarmouth and Lisbon regarding the number of officers employed in the police departments in the various positions each held. I am frequently approached by individuals inquiring about the town of Yarmouth, its unique characteristics, and our law enforcement communities, so this was not an unusual encounter. Shortly into the conversation, however, the individual's comments and questions became a bit irregular, and it was apparent that he was attempting to draw me into expressing a negative opinion regarding the number of officers on Lisbon's roster. I commented that even though some towns may be geographically and residentially similar, every community is unique with diversified challenges and requirements which necessitate the number of officers needed to meet its needs. Also, I offered that perhaps Lisbon's immediate proximity to the large city of Lewiston added to the criteria for needing a larger number of officers than Yarmouth. That was basically the entire conversation. I would like to assure you that in no manner did I speak negatively or unfavorably about the town of Lisbon or its law enforcement community. Initially, I was deeply offended and infuriated by what I consider a personal affront on my professionalism and my character. In hindsight, this reporting fellow was obviously searching for disparaging remarks to foster his cause. When none were forthcoming, he chose to deliberately misconstrue my response to his leading questions. After further thought, I came to the realization that such an insult, referring specifically to my use of the term sodomized, not only borders on the ridiculous, but actually crosses the line into utterly preposterous and hardly dignifies a response. Should you deem it appropriate to share this response, however, please feel free to do so. I deeply regret any adverse consequences this malicious report may have caused you personally or the fine town of Lisbon itself. Again, I appreciate your sharing this information. Part 2. Take your coat off. Get comfortable. I'm going to read another excerpt from the Lisbon Reporter. September 6, 2008. Why we started the Lisbon Reporter. Dear Lisbon community, we wanted to stop and reflect back on why we originally started the Lisbon Reporter. We have had grave concerns for quite some time about the way that business has been conducted at the Town of Lisbon municipal offices, but we especially have the concerns since the Town Council form of government has been instituted in 2006. Therefore, we needed an avenue of which to inform the citizens of what is actually going on when your backs are turned. We have dedicated hours and hours of our time researching and collecting data relevant to our cause. I emphasized, not the reporter, I emphasized our cause. Unlike the town of Lisbon, we want to share it with the community so you can come to your own conclusions. Now wait till the fire's gone. Sorry. That's okay. I'll share that last line again. We want to share with the community so you can come to your own conclusions. So please do come to your own conclusions. Lisbon community, please understand that in order to do this right, we must proceed carefully. We are asking that you support us in our efforts to rid our community of the filth that are using our money to benefit themselves. We have a great community with great people who deserve better than this. Don't be fearful. The truth will set you free. The truth will set you free. Signed, Roger Cody and Todd Comber. Mr. Eldridge, if I could ask you to read a letter, please.
I received this letter on December 8th, 2008. It's from the Office of the Attorney General. States, Dear Mr. Eldridge, as you know, Police Chief David Brooks requested that our office examine certain public allegations that Chief Brooks and other members of the Lisbon Police Department overlooked illegal drug trafficking in town in order to share in the profits of traffickers. While serious allegations, our inquiry revealed no credible evidence to support the allegations or even slightly suggest that further investigation is warranted. Our review included interviews of persons who made such claims about the police department, as well as persons to whom the statements were directed and persons who overheard the statements. We found the claims were based on little more than conjecture and idle talk by persons who could offer nothing of credence to support the allegations. Having found no basis to believe that Chief Brooks or any member of the Lisbon Police Department engaged in unlawful or inappropriate conduct, we have closed our inquiry regarding this matter and anticipate no further action. Please feel free to contact us if you have any questions or wish to discuss this further. Brian McMaster, Director of Investigations, Office of the Attorney General.
Thank you. I've lived with this for a number of months. The investigation was concluded in November of last year. And I waited now 3 months to hear an apology from the people who made these allegations. Never came. I've conferred with the representative of the Attorney General's office. I've conferred with the lead counsel of the Civil Liability section of the Maine Municipal Association. I've conferred with our own town attorney, Mr. Roger Terrio, and I've conferred with my own personal attorney. And all of them have told me that I have the right to make public portions of this report as I see fit. Under state law, an investigation by the Attorney General's office is a confidential document. However, in this particular case, this investigation also was part of a personnel investigation against me and members of my department. That's another whole set of standards. So with the advice all being the same from those 4 people, I'm going to share tonight portions of this investigation to the public so you can see and you can make your own determination. Wish I could remember the exact words. Come to your own conclusions about what's going on in this town. Last fall, I was brought into Mr. Eldridge's office at his request. Sat down and I was asked by him, and again, he is my boss, if I had heard any allegations against me and members of the Lisbon Police Department for protecting drug dealers, notifying the dealers of canine searches at the high school, selling drugs, dealing drugs out of the back door of the police department, and on me, I was skimming drug money profits. That's pretty tough. That's pretty tough, seeing you've devoted your entire life to law enforcement. 38 years in this town I've devoted, and this is the crap that came out by this little group. So, again, I'm going to divulge some parts of the interview. This notebook here, that says Attorney General Investigations, case title, Janice Comber. I'm sorry they're not here this evening, but too bad. I'll go back to, I was pulled into the town manager's office and brought this to light. He received a call from the superintendent past fall, advising him that these allegations had been made against me in the department by a member of the Lisbon School Committee at the conclusion of a Lisbon School Committee meeting. She said it, and it was overheard by 2 other school committee members and the superintendent as well. The superintendent reported it to the town manager, who brought it to my attention. I confirmed with the superintendent that it did in fact occur, and I called the Attorney General's office to investigate me. I called the Attorney General's office to investigate my officers, and I called the Attorney General's office to investigate our entire department. Because this made me sick. Parts of the interview with Dr. Welch. Mrs. Comber told Dr. Welch that there were rumors that an officer of the Lisbon Police Department was leaking information about drug searches to students, that there was going to be a drug search. In addition, Mrs. Comber told Dr. Welch that that officer was using his police radio to clear the way for the drug dealers in town. Mrs. Comber then stated that Chief Brooks was involved in skimming and suggested that Chief Brooks was involved in the drug activity. This is a school committee member. Sits on your school committee right now. Part of the interview with school committee member Deb Danuski. Mrs. Danuski said she has heard allegations that the police department has been involved in illicit drug activity. The allegations also include selling drugs from the police department. Ms. Danuski identified Roger Cody as one of the sources of the allegations about the department. Mrs. Danuski told me the most recent allegations about the police department came during a school board meeting in July. Mrs. Danuski said there was a discussion about the police canine searches at the high school and the middle school. School board member Janice Comber said the searches would not be successful because Chief Brooks and one or two of his canine handlers, who she identified, tip off those students who are involved with drugs at the school. Mrs. Comber also suggested the police are selling drugs from the police department and the chief is getting a cut of what is sold. Mrs. Danuski said the only negative comments that she has heard concerning the police department has come from members of the group known as the Lisbon Concerned Citizens. Mrs. Danuski said that Mr. Cody and Mrs. Comber are members of that group. They target town of departments and people. Mrs. Danuski has no concerns that the police are involved in any illegal activity. Ms. Prudy Grant was also interviewed. Ms. Grant told the investigator there's a man who has alleged that Chief Brooks and the police department are allowing drug dealers to go through town as the police look the other way. This man has confronted school board members at the end of their meetings and has made these allegations. She was uncomfortable giving his name. However, she told me, the investigator, that he's running against Charlie Smith for the position of town council. Ms. Grant told me, the investigator, she has no problems with the local police department. Interview with Janice Comber. I, meaning the investigator, asked Mrs. Comber if she has information that the Lisbon Police Department was involved in an illegal drug activity. Mrs. Comber said she has no official proof of the police being involved in an illegal drug activity. However, she has information concerning other corruption in the police department. Mrs. Comber has no information that the police are contacting students about canine searches, only that no drugs have been found during the searches. I would think that as a parent of a high school kid that everybody would be happy that drugs aren't being found in the high school. But no, drugs aren't being found in the high school, so let's flip it and make it look like the police are bad. Go figure. Mrs. Comber told me that there are others in town who have also suggested to her that the police are involved in illegal drug activity. When asked to identify those people, Mrs. Comber identified one person, Roger Cody. Mrs. Comber was unable to identify anyone else with information. Mrs. Comber said that Mr. Cody has made a number of statements regarding the police department allowing illegal drugs to go through town. of Mr. Roger Cody. The investigator identified himself to Mr. Cody, told Mr. Cody that he wanted to speak with him about the information that he may have concerning the police department's involvement in covering up illegal drug activity. Mr. Cody said he was willing to talk to him. However, he said, information he has concerning the police department is hearsay and circumstantial. I asked Mr. Cody if he made statements concerning the sale of illegal drugs from the police department and that Police Chief Brooks was receiving a cut from the drug proceeds. Mr. Cody said that he did make those comments. When asked about the source of his information, he again said it was hearsay. I asked him who told him about the sale of the drugs from the police department. Mr. Cody could not identify anyone. However, he suggested that the information came from the people in the political arena. The political arena. I wish the whole board was here tonight to hear this. The political arena. I wish the school committee was here to hear this tonight. Who else is in the political arena? Mr. Cody indicated that drugs are a big problem in town. He indicated that teachers have alerted students about planned drug searches. Whoops. Apparently, they didn't get their story straight. Because in an earlier interview, we were alleged to have been telling everybody that they were going to search the school. But Mr. Cody indicates that teachers are telling the students that we're going to be searching the schools. What I've read excerpts from are what are called the summary of the interviews by the Attorney General investigator. They are not the full, complete interviews. Every interview was taped. Those tapes have been transcribed. That transcribed paperwork is now in the hands of my attorney. So I can't share the full interviews. I can only share the summary. When Mr. Eldridge received that letter that he just read to you a few minutes ago, he contacted the Attorney General's office. He asked for more information. Because this letter, though it's very clear that the Attorney General is clear to the fact that the police department has done nothing inappropriate, he did ask for more information. This letter was received by Mr. Eldridge, and I asked him if I could please read it, which he is allowing me to do. To Stephen Eldridge from Brian McMaster, Director of Investigations, subject allegations against the police department. This will serve as a follow-up to our letter to you on December 8, 2008, in which we reported the results of our investigation of allegations that Chief Brooks and other members of the Lisbon Police Department had overlooked illegal drug trafficking in town in order to share the profits of drug dealers. As you will recall, Chief Brooks requested that we examine the allegations, which was reportedly made by school committee member Janice Comber following a meeting of the school committee, and which was directed to the school superintendent and overheard by others. Janice Comber was interviewed and disclosed no credible information to support the allegation. Indeed, she told us that the only basis for her assertion she conveyed to the school committee meeting was information communicated to her by town councilor Roger Cody, and her personal knowledge that canine drug searches conducted by the police at the high school resulted in the discovery of no illegal drugs. Roger Cody was also interviewed. He disclosed that any statements he may have communicated to Mrs. Comber or others concerning police department involvement in illegal drug trafficking was based solely on hearsay and circumstantial information. Mr. Cody spoke of a person in town whom he believes is involved in drug trafficking and whom the police have not arrested. Mr. Cody also conceded that he has made statements to others. Mr. Cody has also conceded that he has made statements to others that Chief Brooks is benefiting from the proceeds of illegal drug trafficking in town. He identified the source of his information as hearsay and suggested the information in this regard came from the people in town in the political arena. Mr. Cody was unable to provide names of such persons or any credible information suggesting unlawful police involvement in drug trafficking. I could sure use drinking water. I know I'm still a rookie. I've only been on your police department for 34 years. And I've only been your police chief for 28 years. I've been asked twice by the town of Lisbon to serve as your interim fire chief. I've been asked to serve by the town council to serve as your interim town manager. I have served this town at the highest level that I'm capable of doing. The highest level that I am capable of doing. At times I've caused my family stress because I spend too much time here and not enough time with family. But you know, over time that worked out okay because I've got two great kids and both of them have chose public service. One's a teacher and one's a police officer. And I'm dad and proud of them. Thank God my son, who's a police officer, doesn't work in this town right now and has to put up with this crap.
Our daughter teaches in the town of Lisbon, I will say it, at the elementary school.
I've had a lot of communications with the Attorney General's office. A lot of communications with the Attorney General's office. Probably being the senior chief in the state of Maine, they cringe when I call. But I highlighted a comment that I had with a member of the Attorney General's office that was involved in this investigation. His comment was this: what we looked at were allegations of corruption by the police department, not the moral corruption of those making the allegations. Pretty powerful statement. It's the Attorney General's office to investigate the allegations of corruption by police, not the moral corruption of those making those allegations. Some of you can see my book here. I've got flags all through it. I could really share a lot of information, but I think you've got the picture. But I have more. Maine State Police arrest report. October 11th, 2008. Route 100, Auburn. Maine State Trooper has a car stop. That trooper has a conversation with Mr. Roger Cody. Mr. Cody tells the trooper he's been having problems with Lisbon PD. He also mentioned to the trooper that Lisbon PD is under investigation for $1.5 million of fraud, and that he worked in the town and dealt with the financial matters and reported it to the Attorney General's office. It's not bad enough. I'm a drug dealer. Now he's telling people that I'm involved in $500,000 of fraud in the town of Lisbon. And he told it to a trooper. Mistake. Trooper put it in his report. We contacted the Attorney General again and learned that Mr. Cody never contacted the Attorney General's office with such a claim. However, it was okay to tell it to a state trooper on Route 100 in Auburn. $500,000. Hope I'm not boring you folks. I have another one. Now I'm going to address this to the council. I've been leaning this way. I've got to lean on my left arm for a while. As a town councilor, Mr. Cody has reported to the Attorney General's office that town officials lied at an unemployment hearing on a former employee. He did that as a town councilor. Again, speaking with the Attorney General's office, because of Mr. Cody's credibility, and that was a third party making the complaint, and it's based on hearsay, there is no investigation. I guess we do have a credibility problem, don't we? But what I'm bringing to the town council's attention is that he did this as a town councilor. I asked, did he tell the manager that he was making such a complaint? Or did he tell the town council that he was making such a complaint? Does anybody aware of this complaint? By doing what he did, he again not only crossed the line of civil liability, major crossing the line in civil liability. With this, only the people who did it are going to be held responsible. However, when he called the Attorney General and filed a complaint about officials lying,